Hello, and welcome to Easy English Interviews, the podcast for English language learning. My name is Chris Kent. I'm an associate professor of English as a second language in Japan. And in this podcast, I interview interesting people in easy English, so English students can practice their listening comprehension skills. Please enjoy listening to the interviews, and if you would like to check your comprehension, please look at the questions in the podcast episode notes. Or go to kjkentmsed.substack.com and click on the post for this episode. There, you can subscribe to my Substack and receive email notifications whenever a new interview is released. インタビューを楽しみください。理解度を確認したい場合は、ポッドキャストノートの質問を見るか、URL kjkentmsed.substack.com にアクセスして、このエピソードをクリックしてください。そこで私のサブスタックをサブスクライブして、新しいインタビューがリリースされるたびに電子メール通知を受け取ることができます。Okay, and now for the easy English interview. Okay, so today I'm talking to Tov Fisher-Kirshner. He's an American and a very good friend of mine. So thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so just relax, sit back, and answer the questions as easily as you can. And I'm sure everyone will enjoy the interview. So my first question for you, Tov, is why did you come to Japan to teach English? So can you explain how you came to live here?
It was not my initial intention to come to Japan. I didn't always think, I want to come to Japan. But when I was a senior in university, my fourth year of university, I realized that I wanted to experience living in a foreign country. I realized that Japan was one of the places that I wanted to come to experience living in a foreign country. And one way to live in a foreign country is to teach English. And so I was actually looking at a lot of places in South America at first, but then I ended up finding a nice job in Japan, and that's why I came to Japan.
I see. So I guess you were originally choosing South America because you could speak Spanish. Is that why?
I wanted to get better at Spanish. I had an interest in Spanish and I really enjoyed studying it. And in university, I was studying it really hard, and I had lots of flashcards. I was watching Spanish TV, and I thought I wasn't getting much better at it. I was getting better, but I wanted to live in a place where I could really use the language. Most people in California can speak English, and so I didn't have much opportunity to use Spanish.
I see. So what did you study in college, and why did you choose that?
I studied, my major was communication, and I chose that because this major had lots of areas of study. There were different departments that I was able to take classes from within one department. And so I could study journalism, I could study media, I could study technology. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so this major allowed me to study many things. And that's why I chose communication.
I see. And so then eventually you ended up in Japan, and now you're working at a private high school. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So then what are the good parts and the bad parts of your job there? And could you tell us why?
Sure. So I work at a private all-girls junior and senior high school. And I think the best part of the job is the students at this particular school are just always so nice and so friendly. And they're a real joy to teach. And so every day I'm always impressed at just how how friendly and motivated my students are. And so that motivates me as a teacher. In terms of negative parts of my job, I have lots of freedom to teach what I want to teach and how I want to teach, but I don't always have freedom in how the grades are done. So I might have to rank students in a certain class, and when I think more students deserve a higher grade, I might not be able to do that. So there are some things that I can't control, which I can't change.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes you'd like to give everyone the best score that you can.
Right. Right.
Okay, just to switch gears a little here. When you were younger, what did you want to be and why? And when I say younger, I mean like young child.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I feel like many people, when they're young, they had an idea of what they wanted to be, but I don't really have a memory of thinking, I want to do that when I'm an adult. I was always very, very busy. I played soccer, I played baseball, I went to many chess tournaments. And so maybe I didn't have time to slow down and think about what I wanted to be. So if I had to answer when I was a child, I would probably have said, I want to be a professional soccer player, because soccer was my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, many of the other people I've interviewed, the Canadian people I've interviewed, say they want to be a professional hockey player. But yeah, I played soccer as well when I was young. So I wanted to be a professional soccer player, but not quite good enough. Yeah. Okay. So getting back to Japan, what places have you visited in Japan? And what is your favorite place in Japan?
I've been to a number of different prefectures and islands. Perhaps the place that I go back to the most frequently, so maybe it's my favorite place, is Nozawa Onsen in Nagano. I'd like to go snowboarding there, and it's got a really nice feel to the town. There's free onsen, free hot springs there. So that's probably my favorite place. But some other places I've been to Okinawa, and I've been to Ishigaki in Okinawa and Iriomote Island, which is almost all the way to Taiwan. It's so far away from mainland Japan. And I really like it's quite different there. And that place was actually a place where they're starting ecotourism and studying ecotourism there. So I thought that place was really interesting. And I have been to Shizuoka and a few places north of Tokyo as well.
Okay. And so when you're traveling around Japan, what things do you like about the Japanese culture, especially?
If I can go to a local festival, I really like all of the different shops. I like the atmosphere of local festivals. It seems like everyone is always so happy and friendly. And in fact, my very first time to Japan, I went to a festival, the Danjiri Matsuri in Osaka, and it really formed a really good impression about Japan, because that was my first experience, and people were just giving me ice cream and giving me drinks, and asking me to join. And so I really felt the warmth of Japanese people. So if I can travel and find a festival, I like to do that.
I see. So getting more personal, I guess, what would you say now is your hobby, and why do you like to do that hobby?
Well, my personal hobbies have really stopped recently because I have two young children. And so my favorite thing to do now is if the weather is nice, I bought an electric assist bicycle, and I'd like to put my son, he just turned 3. I like to put him on the back of the bicycle and go to a park with him, and play around in the park. So if I have if I have a nice day, that's my hobby is playing with my family.
Okay, so that was my next question. So your family in Japan, can you just explain what your family, like who is in your family here in Japan?
Sure. So I have a Japanese wife who I met just about 10 years ago. And I have a son who just turned 3. And I have a daughter who is 10 months old.
Wow, 10 months. That's a really tough time.
Yeah, I wake up every night.
I can imagine. Okay, what would you say would be your plan for the future?
So I've been thinking a lot recently about, I'm getting older. I'll be 40 years old this year. And I've been trying to think of ways that I can save for retirement and also pay off a house loan. So I bought a house last year. And so I've been thinking, how can I save for retirement? And so that's really been on my mind. And I haven't figured out what to do yet. And I don't want to get too complicated, but as an American who lives in a foreign country, you have to be very careful about retirement plans and where you invest money. So that you don't get in trouble with taxes. So I'm still thinking what I can do to save money.
Sounds complicated.
Yes, it's very complicated.
Okay, my last question, which I like to ask all my guests, is if you could give any advice to students studying English or students listening to this podcast, what would it be?
Sure. I really had kind of two things I was thinking about talking about. In my first class of the year, with every year, my first class of the year, I always tell students my special rules, which is it's really good for the classroom environment, but it's also good out in the wild, out in the world when you're using English, and that is don't be shy. Don't be shy. Make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. So don't be shy, make mistakes, and ask questions. If you can do these things, it's really important to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. So those 3 things is kind of one piece of advice. My own personal advice for studying language, because I studied Japanese quite a bit, so I can empathize with students, is if I know flashcards are very popular, and if you use flashcards, that's great. And I have some tips for using flashcards. One would be to shuffle the order of the flashcards. So don't always do the same order. And the other tip for using flashcards would be when you're studying, increase the interval when you are studying. So the first time, if you have a list of words you are studying, maybe you look at it, study it, put it down. And then 10 minutes later, come back and look at it again, and then put it down. And then the next time, come back a little bit longer, not 10 minutes, but maybe 30 minutes. Put it down, study again, and then next time, maybe 1 hour. And you keep increasing the amount of time so that you can remember the words before you forget them.
Yeah, that's very specific and detailed advice. I think the students will enjoy that. I think that using that spaced interval for anything will help you to remember. So that's very good advice. Yeah. All right. Well, Tov, thank you very much for joining me today. I know you're very busy, so I'll let you get back to it. But thanks again, and hopefully we can chat again in the future.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. This was my first podcast, and I hope to come back again someday.
Well, you could be a recurring guest.
All right. See you. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tov Fisher-Kirshner, and I would like to say thank you very much for listening. Also, I hope that you will try the comprehension questions when you have free time, so you can check your listening ability in English. And please, if you would like to be notified by email whenever a new podcast is up, please become a subscriber at kjkentmsed.substack.com. That's kjkent.substack.com. If you become a paid subscriber there, you can read transcripts of the interviews and check your comprehension answers. Also, we have a new community on locals at easyenglishinterviews.locals.com, so check it out. All right, thank you again, and see you next time when we will speak with another interesting person. Bye-bye from Easy English Interviews.